Let me call on stage our panelists, His Excellency, Mr. Derek Rawcliffe, Minister of Mines, Energy and Rural Electrification, Solomon Islands. There he is, ladies and gentlemen, joining us on stage. Let's welcome him. We have His Excellency, Derek Rawcliffe, Minister of Mines, Energy and Rural Electrification, Solomon Islands. Warm welcome, sir. I'd like to invite His Excellency Mr. John Abdullahi Jinapur, Minister of Energy and Green Transition, Ghana. Mr. John Abdullahi Jinapur, His Excellency Minister of Energy and Green Transition, Ghana. May I also invite His Excellency Dr. Frevert Voldehana, Associate Professor, Addis Ababa University, Ethiopia, National Focal Point, Ethiopia, and also the former Minister of Ethiopia. His Excellency Mr. Jagannath Samy, High Commissioner of Fiji. His Excellency Mr. Jagannath Samy, High Commissioner of Fiji. Ms. Eneda Rodriguez Chapman, Specialist Directorate of Renewable Energy, Ministry of Energy and Mines of the Republic of Cuba. Mr. Moni Kaptan, former Foreign Minister and CEO, Liberia Electricity Corporation. Mr. Harish Hande, CEO, Selco Foundation. I'd also request DG ISA, Mr. Ashish Khanna, to please grace us. May I also invite our moderator for this session, Dr. Barkat Ahmed, Regional Programs Head, Africa ISA. And I'd also like to apprise you all, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, that this session will come to a close with the signing of the country partnership framework with Papua New Guinea. We also have a group photograph at the end of this session, so we request Excellencies seated on the dais to please give us that photo opportunity as well.
Yes, it's good.
So once again, so we've got everyone on the stage. We've got His Excellency Derek Rawcliffe, Minister of Mines, Energy and Rural Electrification, Solomon Islands. His Excellency Mr. John Abdullahi Jinapur, Honorable Minister of Energy and Green Transition, Ghana. We have His Excellency Dr. Frevert Voldehana, Associate Professor, Addis Ababa University, Ethiopia, National Focal Point, Ethiopia, and also the former Minister of Ethiopia of Energy. His Excellency Mr. Jagannath Samy, High Commissioner of Fiji. Ms. Eneda Rodriguez Chapman is awaited. She's going to be joining us. Specialist Directorate of Renewable Energy, Ministry of Energy and Mines of the Republic of Cuba. And Mr. Moni Kaptan, former Foreign Minister and CEO, Liberia Electricity Corporation. Mr. Harish Hande, CEO, Selco Foundation. And we have our DG, Mr. Ashish Khanna. And now, taking over the proceedings is Dr. Barkat Ahmed, Regional Programs Head, Africa ISA. Sir.
Thank you so much, MC. A very good morning, Excellencies, distinguished delegates and esteemed partners. A warm welcome to this session, Accelerating Solar Ecosystem Through Country Partnership from Ambition to Action. I will start from the previous session, the concluding remark of the Asian Development Bank. And the first recommendation was mentioned is for ICA as a way forward to strengthen regional and country integration. And this session is about that. So today's ISA engagement with member countries has evolved into a deeper and more strategic collaboration through the country partnership framework, a cornerstone for long-term cooperation and measurable outcomes. The session provides a unique platform for dialogue among ministers and development partners to collectively chart the next phase of our journey from framework to field results. So as we discuss innovation, financing models, capacity building pathway, and regional programs, our goal is to accelerate implementation. So let's together reaffirm our shared resolve to make solar energy not just a pillar of clean power, but a catalyst for sustainable, inclusive development across ISA member countries. It gives me a great pleasure now to invite Mr. Ashish Khanna, ISA DG, to give us a presentation about the country partnership framework to make also the other countries more familiar what is the country partnership is about and how we go about it. DG, you have the floor. So, presentation, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. I want to start by mentioning that those countries for which we are not doing a country partnership strategy, it does not imply that we are not going to work with you. There was a question that we have heard in our regional committee meetings. We are equally committed to all our member countries, but because we cannot go very deep in every country, in some countries we have to go through the entire value chain. This is part of a third pillar on regional and country engagement, as I shared with all of you during my presentation in Assembly yesterday. The status is that we have 3 countries in Asia region. We started with Bangladesh and now we are working with Bhutan and Sri Lanka. In Pacific region we have Fiji, Kiribati and Solomon Islands. We will be signing a country partnership framework with Papua New Guinea today. In Africa we are working with Ethiopia, Gambia, Ghana, Mauritius, Nigeria, and we believe we will be working with at least with 2-3 more countries. And in Latin America region we are working with Cuba and Grenada. How we begin with a country partnership framework? We look at broadly 4 strategic priorities, and I will talk about how each country is very unique. First is to look what should be the solar roadmap on solar deployment for energy security. We focus a lot more on policy and regulations. We definitely will have a star C in all our CPS countries, and we look at how to help them on financing. We really believe the reason for doing a CPS is to have an institutional governance structure for joint oversight with the government. So there is a steering committee that has to be chaired by either the minister or the secretary, along with DG ISA, a technical committee, and as I keep mentioning, this work cannot be done sitting out of Delhi. So we will definitely be setting up a larger national focal point support unit in our country partnership strategy. The whole idea is to have a results-based milestones. Everything should be clear what's possible in 6 months, 1 year to 3 years. And of course, we will have Star C as the implementation vehicle for capacity development and a communication plan. Now let me talk about how the journey in last 6 months for different country partnership strategies is going. As I talked about, Star C will increasingly be the entire training, capacity building and entrepreneurship for entire CPS implementation. And we will have a dedicated office to support the NFP as National Focal Point Support Unit. In Mauritius, the focus is on floating solar. So we are going to help the government get the 17 megawatt floating solar and 12 megawatt rooftop solar. We are working with them on the policy and regulatory support, strategy roadmap, especially on agri-PV because they are land constrained, and of course Mauritius is part of the SIDS platform as well. Because of their advanced structure of the utility, they are also very interested in both tapping Africa's solar facility and a digital twin program. In Ethiopia, which has a huge access agenda, we are starting with one of the largest mini-grid pilot projects, 700 kilowatt. Based on the discussions at the highest level of the political level, we are focusing on solarization of agriculture, looking at whether we can have a large program of 10,000 solar pumps. We will be working on national energy policies as well. Cuba's case is very unique because they have foreign exchange regulations. So we are focusing a lot more on commercial and industrial consumers like BioCube Pharma to have a solar of 60 megawatt. But also looking at pumps, both in terms of water pumping, but also a lot of agriculture usage. If you look at Bhutan, that was the first country we have actually launched a country partnership strategy. They want to do 5 gigawatts by 2040, 4 gigawatt by 2030, out of which 620 will be done through our support. We are looking at right now again policy and regulatory support. We want to look at how we can help them on doing the first solar IPP. We will help them on the first 1 megawatt green hydrogen plant and also an off-grid EV-based charging infrastructure. And of course, they are also candidates for working on financing arrangements along with IFCA and a digital twin. In Fiji, we are looking at electrification of schools, residential and government buildings, but we are also looking at a big solar home standalone systems. Of course, they are part of SITS platform, so they will have a chance to be part of aggregated procurement and policy and regulatory guidance. So what are our steps? What are our offerings? Because you may ask, if you're not a bank, what are all that ISA really provides as part of country partnership strategy? First, we bring all the knowledge through technical assistance, whether it is requiring on procurement, whether it is on upstream national solar energy roadmap, assessment of why private sector is not investing in that particular country and what needs to happen on policy and regulatory. It could be a review of a bankable PPA, feasibility study. So there is a whole range of technical assistance support. Each of you wants to develop your own capacity to find your own answers. So there's a very exhaustive training and capacity building plan. As I mentioned, housed in Star C, but looking at what are the trainings, what are the capacity building, train the trainers and other programs, including on digitization, which is both a global capability center, but you can also look at a lot of use of AI. And finally, financing, where we do have now Africa Solar Facility for the African countries, but we can look at other continents if they need some financing instrument as well. I will say this is very important. In my experience across 3 continents, when you have a right institutional structure to monitor, things get done, including a strong political ownership. So we do believe that a steering committee, which is chaired by at least the minister or the principal secretary with me, that meets at least once a quarter, with a convening member and secretary, which is the NFP from our side, and the regional program heads that we have for each of the regions. There is a technical committee that includes the NFP and working group members that are finalized in consultation, both from the ISA and from the government and private stakeholders. And then there are partners like Celco and others that are joining these teams. And finally, we have a NFP support unit in the local, which is going to work on communications, technical support. So seamless working of this group, not only as coordination, but on project management at the highest level will be the heart of it. This is just some snapshot. I will not go into the details of this because that should be the subject matter of the discussion, but there are slides that will be shared with you. Thank you very much. I hand over back to Barakat.
Is it okay? Okay. Thank you so much, DG. So let's start with His Excellency, Honorable Minister of Solomon Island. And my question is that given the geopolitical challenge of the small island development states, how do you see the country partnership framework helping the small Solomon Island to scale the solar deployment and the energy access?
Thank you, moderator, and thank you, fellow panelists and Secretary General, Director General of ISA for this opportunity. Solomon Islands is a small island developing state located in the Pacific Ocean, and in the context of a small island developing state like Solomon Islands, almost everything is a priority when it comes to looking at how we participate meaningfully in these initiatives. However, having a clear way forward, working with stakeholders is the most important thing for us to map the way forward. All partners in this effort endeavors are very important. Not only our bilateral partners, but also multilateral partners who are working with us in mapping a way forward. In terms of solarization and advancing solar development and renewable energy in Solomon Islands, we do have a potential renewable energy resources, particularly in solar, but also in other renewable energy sources. Harmonizing these different potentials is very, very important. Hello. Thank you. It's very important. And having partners that are readily available to assist us, not only in terms of resources, but also in terms of technical. Sorry. Yes, having partners and bodies that are readily available to work with us in identifying ways forward is a very critical for us. So I think we have challenges, but these challenges can be easily converted into opportunities by working closely with our multilateral and bilateral partners, not only our political friends, but also organizations like ISA. And I do note the steps that have been identified by the Director General, which are very useful in identifying and in paving a clear way forward in this endeavor.
Thank you so much, Excellency. So moving to His Excellency Mr. John Jinapor, Minister of Energy and the Green Transition of Ghana. Excellency, we keep talking about financing, innovation, tools, and risk mitigation. What do you think it is required to accelerate the bankable project in the solar energy in Ghana and in West Africa in general?
Thank you very much. Firstly, I think that there should be policy consistency. Very, very important. You must get a policy right. You must get what you want to do right. And Ghana has learned some bitter lessons. At a point, we had to do what we call emergency procurement of power. And that came at a very, very high cost. And it continues to hurt us. So my advice to my colleagues is that learning from Ghana's experience, let's always be ahead of the curve. In the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, where do we envisage Ghana and Africa to be? What will be our energy mix and how do we get it right? When you get that right and you sell it to investors, they feel comfortable and they know what is happening. The next is the macroeconomic stability, because investments want areas where there's certainty, where there's predictability, and where the rule of law works. And so if we make the macro environment quite conducive, naturally it attracts people. But like you said, the issue is risk. If you do not take risk, your returns are low. But investors are also risk averse. So governments must put in place the necessary fiscal framework. For instance, my lessons that I've learned is that if you want to promote solar, let's get land banks. So that when somebody as an investor comes, they don't go through the very difficult land tenure systems. But when the land is available, then the nature of our PPAs. The investor goes to raise capital and comes to invest. So he wants to be sure that it will be paid back. And that can only be achieved if the distribution sector is properly catered for. Because when you sell the power, you have to collect the money. So we need to bring about a lot of reforms that ensure that the power sold, we account for that money. So we pay through that value chain till it gets to the final developer. And Ghana, we've been taking some hello. We've been taking some very difficult decisions. I know it's tough, but at the end of the day, that is the way to go. So we've been talking to the Indian government to work with ISA so that we can I think it's a general system. So we can improve in the distribution sector. We've instituted what we call a cash waterfall mechanism. What the is the system? What the cash waterfall does is that as the distributor collects the money, it is put in a central account and automatically is distributed. So the investor is sure of what he will get. But let Africa and Ghana lead the way. Let us mobilize our own capital first. We have the African Development Bank. They are now doing about 25 billion in terms of investments in renewable energy. We have the Africa. Hello. Okay. Thank you. Currently, we have the Africa Energy Bank, and we have similar side banks, Climate Fund, and all that. We must tap into those funds that I call patient capital. Because renewable energy investment is capital intensive. It has a long gestation period, and the project itself is long, 25 years. So those are some of the things that I think African governments should do. But finally, one country cannot do it alone. Let us pool resources together. And in West Africa, we have what we call the West African Power Pool, where all of us can share power. So, for instance, if Ghana can send power to Nigeria and vice versa, because of time difference, we can adjust so that when they have enough, we can take from them, and when it's interference, so it keeps breaking. Maybe we should have just gone to rooms where we are. So they are trying to rectify. They are just workers. Sometimes they don't know the noise comes in. Okay, so to wind it up, maybe I may just end it and say that let's collaborate and work together. I'm sure maybe when somebody takes the mic. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Clancy. I think if we look inside Africa itself, there is a lot, many countries. Hello? Hello? Okay, so again. Hello? Okay, so if we look to inside Africa itself, a lot of countries has taken a lot of measures and put a lot of efforts. If we look to hello?
Check, 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 check.
Okay.
Yeah, please, we can go ahead.
Okay, okay. So I give you an example of no. In North Africa, of course, Egypt and Morocco. Egypt and Morocco in North Africa have done a great job, and East Africa, and also there's a lot of lessons to be learned from Ghana. The message that when country really goes on strong reform, private sector will come.
It's a very interesting discussion.
Okay, let me now take the word of Honorable Jinapur and the importance of policy and regulation, and go to Ethiopia and Dr. Fruit. Without policy and regulation, we cannot attract private sector. This is very clear. So, from the Ethiopian perspective, what is the critical policy and regulatory enablers needed to really create a robust national solar ecosystem? Let's see if this will work.
Thank you, Dr. Barakat, for the question and for the opportunity to discuss in this panel discussion. So, in Ethiopia, of course, there are a number of policy areas where the effect is, of course, to improve private sector participation in many projects.
Oh, they are
having problems. They are pulling all the
I think let's. Can you hear? No.
Hello?
Yes. Can you hear?
Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. Yeah.
Okay. But there is noise in it.
Interpretation is interfering.
Hello. Barakat. Hello.
Yes, maybe.
yeah, just
Yeah.
Just move there and answer the question.
Use the podium. Yes.
yeah,
Good idea.
use
You can use the podium.
Shall we try?
To ask the person is about to answer, he walks there.
And even the question come to ask over there.
It may work.
Yes. Can we use this? Can we use this? Yeah, but can we use this one? What? Hello? No? Hello? Hello? No, they are working on it. They need 2 minutes. Hello?
Barakat, please go ahead.
Okay. So, can we speak from the podium, or it's, mic is okay?
It's mic.
Mic is
now
okay?
it is fixed. Yes.
Okay. Anyway, technology bring funny also. Okay. Yes.
Okay. Sorry for the disturbance. Anyways, from the Ethiopian policy environment, there are a number of policies which support development of the energy sector. The first is, of course, the energy policy, renewable energy policy, which is which has been updated for the last few years, and now it's almost over. So that's the starting point. And there are also other policies which support the private sector, like the investment policy. Investment policy allows the private sector in many areas, including energy. So that's one. And the other is maybe tax policy. For instance, renewable energy products are subject to minimal tax, like solar and even wind technologies and the like. So it's also possible to mention other minor policies, but with major effects, major impacts on the private sector participation. So all in all, I would say now the condition is ripe for strong private sector engagement in Ethiopia. Given the fact that Ethiopia is endowed with lots of renewable energy resources, including hydropower, solar, wind, and even geothermal, as well as biomass, renewable energy development in general, and solar energy in particular, are that they have good time, and private sectors are encouraged to come and participate in various aspects, not only generation but also even local manufacturing and the like. So that's in short what I can say.
Thank you so much, Dr. Fruit. And moving from Africa to a small island again, development states, and going to Fiji, Mr. Sami, High Commissioner of Fiji. So Fiji has been a strong advocate for regional solar collaboration. So how is the country partnership framework help enhance South-South cooperation among Pacific Island states? And also we can touch upon also digitalization, how really digitalization is helping and facilitating this kind of cooperation.
Thank you. Yes, indeed. Fiji comes from a very, from the South Pacific, small island nation, but we are deeply engaged in the solarization programs. But before that, I want to say, bring warm greetings from the government of Fiji and the people of Fiji. Fiji Islands is, of course, very well known for the sun, the sea, the sand, and the smiles. And I invite everyone to visit our shores. Of course, this theme truly resonates with the Fiji's vision. For us, solar energy is not only about providing homes, powering homes. It is about empowering lives, sustaining livelihoods, and building resilience in the face of climate change. Through the International Solar Alliance, we share a collective responsibility to turn our solar ambitions into tangible actions that transform communities and economies. Fiji has been a strong advocate, to answer the question, for regional solar collaboration, and the country partnership framework provides an important avenue to deepen South-South cooperation among Pacific Island countries. Through this framework, we can share technical expertise, pool resources, and jointly access concessional financing for renewable energy projects. It also enables regional training, harmonizing of standards, and joint procurement of solar equipment, making clean energy more affordable and sustainable across our islands. At this point, I must add that Fiji recognizes the initiative taken by ISA under the SIDS platform to put a structure for financing. By working together under the CPF, Pacific nations can strengthen collective resilience and accelerate our transition towards a low-carbon future. Those are the 3 points that I would like to make in response to that question.
Thank you so much, Excellency. Mr. Monikaptan, you have been inside the industry as a CEO of Liberia Electricity Collaboration. And in Africa, we keep hearing that there is no fund from the countries and there is no resources. And when you speak with the financial institution and donors, they say, no, just bring bankable project and money is there. So in your view, what are the challenges in structuring bankable solar project and how ISA can bridge this gap?
Thank you. Let me put this first in context. Under ISA, the country partnership is really based on a shared vision between the country and ISA. And normally that involves accelerating the transition to solar energy where you can get affordable, reliable, and sustainable energy. In order to achieve that vision, there are objectives that are set. And one of the primary objectives is getting the private sector involved, private sector engagement being a primary objective. Once that is defined as an objective to achieve your vision, it is necessary to undertake a review of the country's readiness for private sector participation. And that review or assessment of the country's readiness will address, basically look at the challenges that the private sector would have in terms of making an investment. And the results of that assessment then leads to how you go about de-risking the investment. And in de-risking the investment, ISA has 4 pillars, and they include strategies to help de-risk and get countries' investment moving. So having said that, I'd like to just cover a few of the challenges. Of course, the first one our colleague has already mentioned, and that is the regulatory and policy. An investor coming into a country would be concerned about the licensing requirements, the tax requirements, foreign exchange, and land use. And so there is definitely a need for a very clear renewable energy law. And that is one of the first signals as to whether you're ready or not. If there's no clear renewable energy law, I don't see how an investor is going to look seriously. Secondly, in addition to that law, I think there's confidence that can be built if there's a long-term government commitment to solarization. And that commitment can be expressed in several ways. Secondly, there's a challenge of financial structure and access to capital. As we all know, there are limited local capital in our countries. There are high initial investment costs. Local loans are very short in tenor, and sometimes there are currency mismatch. In helping to mitigate that, I think the DG has mentioned the assistance that can be provided in sorting out blended financing, which can help mitigate this, and also looking for long-term loans, because the nature of the solarization requires long-term loans for investment. Third, which is I think a very critical one, has to do with offtake and revenue risk. There's a major issue with creditworthiness of off-takers, and that has to be addressed. There's also sometimes low tariffs, and so feed-in tariffs might be an important aspect of it. And then the length of power purchase agreements, they need to be longer. So in terms of mitigating that, I think the introduction of credit guarantees and the escrow account, I think our colleague from Ghana mentioned a waterfall mechanism. I think that's a very useful mechanism that can give some comfort to investors. Another challenge has to do with the technical risk associated with solarization. The grids are critical. Do they have, what is the interconnection requirements? Do they have the capacity to allow evacuation? Are they stable? Then there's also the question of data quality. What data is available on radiation? Are these reliable data that can be used? So in mitigating that, I think, again, the DG mentioned what ISA can do in terms of helping with early grid studies. And there's also a need to get a commitment from governments for an upgrade of the network. So if you don't see a clear plan, a development plan from the government's end where they will upgrade the network, it also raises some challenges in terms of a long-term investment and the nature of the investment you undertake. And then there's some contractual and legal issues that have to be addressed for countries. And one is if there's a practice of having non-standardized power purchase agreements, that can be problematic. So you want to see a more standardized power purchase agreement. And then, of course, the legal system has to be conducive enough for investment where investments are protected. And last, I'll just mention quickly the need for a good environmental social framework that would be in place and one that would be IFC compliant. would help a lot in terms of achieving the kind of financing and comfort to investors. But ISA, I believe, has critical pillars that can provide the advisory service, the technical assistance, data digitization, which then can serve generally as a catalyst and enabler for investors to get into the field. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much. This is very, very precise. And this is a good advice for the countries who really wants to go forward. So maybe we can talk about four things. Policy and regulation, political commitment should come at the first thing, and addressing also risk mitigation and the data quality. And I think ISA already working and supporting member countries in all those aspects. So moving to Mr. Harish Handi. Harish, you have been working more than 30 years in how innovation can address the livelihood, health and the education challenge through energy as an enabler. So please tell us something about how really can solar energy as an enabler help people in rural areas and poor people to get out of this poverty?
Thanks, Barakat, for this. And as you know, and thanks to Ashish for doing this wonderful two-day assembly. And Barakat, as you know, my views on decentralized energy, because I believe the centralized grid is going to be a typewriter in 10 years. And I think with we need to relook at the last 5 years was different to what next 5 years is. We're not considering how AI is going to change the way the services are going to be installed, right? Very small example. Day before yesterday, I was in Mumbai. I'd gone to an incubation center, health incubation center, where this young startup had created a very portable, not big, as big as this size, a blood test kit and a urine test kit, right? Now imagine a teleservices center in a very rural area. Now a person takes 3 days to come to a public health center, a tribal household. It takes 3 days. That means 3 days out of 30 days, that is 10% of his or her income is actually lost in transaction of actually getting a service. And after going there also, they might take 2 more days to get the service, which is 5 days. Imagine a teleservice center, 10 feet by 10 feet, running on AI, run by an entrepreneur, powered by solar. You're democratizing it today, where a person sits in front of the ATM machine. You have access to 5 doctors, one sitting in Lagos, one sitting in Dar, one sitting in somewhere else. But you have access, you reduce the liability of having an HR, you have that. A urine test and blood test is done there. Blood pressure, everything is through app. And then suddenly says you don't need to come. You save that time. We are looking from an electron's perspective. We need to reverse it, saying that what are we supplying the electricity for? It's health, education. Moment you see that, you might not need so much of electricity in the future, right? Now, it's instead of saying that, okay, we have 20% renewables and 80% fossil fuels, maybe the 20% renewables are most efficiently used. We need to increase the efficiency to get this 80% down, and this automatically rather than increasing renewables, are we relooking at the services? Now, for example, when a doctor actually does your stethoscope, right? He or she, from his experience, only has seen, say, 5,000 patients. Now, AI-enabled stethoscope has seen millions, and that is in a rural area. You're democratizing it. Same in livelihoods. So the present public health centers across the world are going to be post offices. How do we redesign health, redesign education, redesign livelihoods? And suddenly our need of electricity is going to be different. And for me, grid is, can you imagine a youngster, you're having wireless technologies coming up, grid in 5 years is like an ugly transmission line. It's going to be a typewriter. We need to relook at how does energy play a role. And the wonderful part of Africa that we are not mentioning at all is a huge talent of youngsters who are brilliant. It's not about capital, it's the resource of Africa is the youngsters who are extremely smart, and they are going to change the way innovation, health, education, livelihoods are going to make, provided they are given a platform and then they use energy as an enabler. That's why I see the discussion should be turned overheads rather than just looking from an energy focus. Let's look at from a service focused.
Thank you so much, Harish. I think what I would like to add here that Africa is not only rich in natural resources,
Exactly.
also in people.
Human. Yeah, absolutely.
Yes, absolutely. And always I enjoy listening to you with these new ideas, how solar energy can be enabler for getting those poor people out of poverty.
Exactly.
Those who are really left behind, nobody's talking about it. Now we are talking about AI and digitalization, and still a lot of people don't have even access to energy.
Because Barakat, Somalia is going to teach the world, it's going to teach New York how health services in 2035 will be delivered. Why are we catching up? Why can't nations become a future for London or New York to follow what Mogadishu does? And that's the chance, because Mogadishu does not have the baggage that New York has.
I think we need to change this prototype.
Absolutely.
The solution will come from inside,
No, it's
not
good.
outside.
Exactly.
Thank you so much. The second round of question, I will go quickly. Honorable Minister, keep talking about policy and regulation. So what policy or institutional mechanism do you think to believe that to ensure the CBF is linked with initiatives translating tangible outcomes at the community living at Solomon Island?
Thank you. Yes, in the context of Solomon Islands, we are at a moment when we are initiating reforms in the energy sector, renewable energy. We are heavily dependent on diesel energy. And at the moment, almost 80% of the people are living off-grid in the rural areas where there is entirely electricity. In addition to that, the capacity of the expertise that we currently have in Solomon Islands is diesel fuel-based. We have been over the last decades relying heavily on diesel power, and the current technical and capacity that we have is diesel fuel-based. When we advance into solarization, it is not only about providing the infrastructure. It is also about considering the human aspect of that exercise. And that, I think, is very, very important. It's about looking at what technologies we have, at the standards and the qualities that are suitable to the context that we have, as well as to what degree, to what levels would the service provided be able to advance the livelihood of the people. You know, in Solomon Islands, we have had micro solar, rooftop solar programs for the last maybe 20 years. But because we have not been able to have policies that ensure that we procure products at good quality, these things are administered mostly on an ad hoc basis. And that doesn't have the maximum impact that we envisage for the rural people and even the lives of our people. So when looking at the policy aspect of solarization in Solomon Islands, the legislative frameworks must be our primary focus, but also looking at how these legislative and structural reforms can have a positive impact to the lives of the people who are far from the arms of government in terms of the administrative arms of government, and how that can impact on them for into the future. We are at the moment reforming our Electricity Act to integrate diesel power administration along with solarization. But also our basic problem at the moment is that we have a regulator that is also an utility with the Solomon Power in Solomon Islands. And the reform, which is a basic reform and legislation, is to have an independent regulator and allow for utilities to participate in a competitive environment where they can provide cheap and affordable and quality service to the people. We, in the Solomon Islands, we have one of the highest tariff rates in the world, even though it's focused, it's centralized in the urban areas. But having a conducive legislative environment that can allow for public-private partnerships and meaningful PPIs can be very, very useful for us in the long term. As I've mentioned earlier, we have now having challenges. We have challenges, but these challenges can be easily converted into opportunities if we allow ourselves to come up with reforms, legislative, policy, and sectoral reforms that can be able to sustain the benefits of having to have meaningful partnerships with our bilateral and multilateral donor partners, but also with opportunities that are offered with our memberships, like with the International Alliance, that can go a long way in providing a conducive environment that can be utilized not only by the government to bilateral and multilateral arrangements, but also with the private sector. I think that is very important. We do have the Tin Hydro project at the moment, which it's a multi-donor funded project. It's a 15 megawatts project. It's a hydro power project, but that would provide an environment where solarization will be boosted. But we have challenges in the past where the financial safeguards have made it almost impossible for us to access climate funding. And that is where I believe institutions and organizations like ISA comes in. They will help us to de-risk and the integration agenda of pooling resources together, joint procurement, will only make us stronger and be able to be more as meaningful participants in helping to save our people, but also having one global agenda of saving the environment. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Excellency. I think the way forward is clear. The urgent need for policy and regulation and partnership. This is very important, looking to create an impact to the poor people and who are really very far away, left behind. Quickly going to Ethiopia, Dr. Frewitt, I mean, we have signed the country partnership framework with Ethiopia. In the coming 6 or 1 year, what is the low-hanging fruits or quick wins, in your opinion, quickly?
Okay, that's it. Thank you. Thank you, Barkat. The country partnership framework was signed recently, as you know, but cooperation, the support from ISA was enabled a few years back. And over the years, we have been able to start a number of projects, pilot projects, including floating solar or IPPs, solar IPPs and the like. So that's also the establishment of the Star Center for capacity building. Now, all these things, it doesn't mean that there are no issues, there are no problems. Even the policies, they might need some refinements, some of the policies. And this CPF would be really a vehicle to really address all these issues and strengthen the cooperation and build the confidence of the private sector. So even through financing, getting partners, financial partners through the ISA would be easier than government alone or other partners alone. So it creates a conducive environment for further solarization of projects, be it in the agriculture or even urbanization and so on. So the CPF is really a good tool and I think we can rely on it, and the government will be more committed. It has been committed earlier, but still it will be further committed, to go for better projects, higher projects for encouragement of private sector and the like. So I think it's very useful. It's really, personally, I'm appreciative of it. So
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you, Dr. Fruit. Moving to Fiji, High Commissioner, I mean, we keep saying that Fiji advocating for regional cooperation. So, in your opinion, what are the expectations from ISA and development partners in enabling long-term sustainability and ownership of solar initiatives in island states?
Thank you for that question. I think Fiji, if you look at Fiji's location, I mean, it is in the South Pacific, surrounded by oceans, and it's more largely made up of over 300 islands, although about 110 islands may be inhabited. So our problem, our challenges in the Pacific would be similar to what most of the SIDS have. So there has to be some special approach or unique approaches when it comes to addressing these challenges. Now, Fiji has, of course, closely working with the Pacific. ISA is you could say the facilitator, or has become more like an energy or energizing the Pacific through the sun. So there is the challenges of legal frameworks that needs to be put in place. If you look at Fiji itself, Fiji has only one energy supplier, and they basically control the pricing, largely, of course, diesel, although we have alternative means of producing energy as well. But solar has to reach out to these small islands, remotely based villages, and agriculture right now is not not powered, and I think with the approach that ISA and Fiji in collaboration is taken is a big step forward to see how we can strengthen the agricultural sector. Like I said, Fiji is largely an agricultural country, and unless we power the agricultural sector, I think the economies of the communities who are remotely based will not, will be addressed. So we are very confident that working with the Pacific and maybe the platform, the SIDS platform, where the financing arrangements being done, if these are, strengthened, these challenges are addressed, Pacific would be the way forward in seeing maybe in near future to come, fulfilling its targets of solarizing and moving away from diesel-powered supplies. So I'm very confident that this partnership is working very well, and we are very positive of achieving results. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Excellency. My last question to Moni and Harish, quickly, as we are moving to the implementation of the country partnership framework, so in your opinion, what is the low-hanging fruits or the quick wins in the coming 6 months and for 1 year in some countries in Africa? What are the areas that we can tap in so we can showcase in 1 year that there is something has been created on the ground? Mr. Moni?
Well, I think you already have a success story with the refrigeration, solar refrigeration concept.
Yes.
Which has a direct impact on livelihood for communities. And I think from the regional meeting we had in Accra, there was quite an interest in other countries benefiting from that. So I think spreading that success story, piloting more of this refrigeration through solar for instance, fishing communities and so forth, I think would be very useful. And I think one of the things that can be done also is bringing vendors closer to the markets. How do you facilitate and encourage vendors to move into those markets and make it easier so that the pilot projects that were started by ISA can then be sustainable, where you've made the connection, you've shown the proof of concept, you've shown the benefits, and now bringing the parties together, the partners, so that they can then go forward in doing this.
Thank you so much. Harish?
Yeah, hello. Hi. One small digression is that when His Excellency from Solomon Islands and Fiji talked about, I mean, when we look at de-risking capital, we also look, if the people said that how are you going to de-risk our lives, that not de-risking their lives is more expensive than the de-risking the capital right now, right? We would actually should look at a de-risking fund of how the people are de-risked, right? Number one, the low-hanging fruits, Barakat, is very clear. If I have to look at Ethiopia, for example, and I look at Afar, Oromia, as well as Gambela region, easily in the next 1 year, we should be able to do 1,000 small-scale farmers who own less than 2-acre land in terms of both irrigation, cold storage, and little market linkage. There are champion farmers who become a pilot and template for both Somalia, Djibouti, and the neighboring countries. Same thing, you can actually pick up Rwanda and Uganda to look at re-looking at their health centers. And in the next 5 years, are we able to do 1,000 health centers? And each health center is actually linked to an innovation center that actually upscales the skill sets in terms of innovation and incubation of local enterprises. These are things that in next 1 year, we should be able to do, at least in these countries, that creates a template for rest of Africa.
Thank you so much, Harish. And this is kind of partnership really we are looking for in ISA. With this and considering the time constraint, this session has been come to the end. I will give the floor back to the MS to guide us.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmed. And I guess before we have the signing of the country partnership with Papua New Guinea, shall we do a group photograph while we prepare for that, with all the excellencies and the moderator here, please?